Hi there, everybody. My name is Kate. Welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. This is number 5 in a series of mental health stuff that has to do with how we can keep our mental health in check, how we can keep ourselves healthy, self-care, self-soothing, boundaries, triggers, all kinds of things. And at this point in the discussion, I would like to talk about focusing on identifying our emotions. When we're in an extreme kind of I'm not sure how I feel about this. We know that we're out of balance in a panic attack, a rage attack, or something. When we can put the pause in, when we can kind of start identifying what is the actual feeling that I'm feeling. I'm talking about an out of balance moment, which would be, depression, sadness, rage, anxiety, anything that's just out of that peaceful place, and how far out of whack it is really going to determine, how quickly or how able we are going to be able to identify stuff. So it's good to catch it early, but that takes practice. Sometimes we have to go the whole way down the road to figure out what the road was all about, as long as we come back, so that we don't take the same road twice if we don't have to. If that wasn't a pleasant journey, let's not do that stuff twice. But when we're in that imbalance, if we can figure out what is the actual feeling that I'm having, what is the actual feeling that I'm having? What is the emotion that I'm having? And feeling, for me, I can't put this into psychiatry standards or the DSM or into therapy, because I'm not qualified to do that. But for me, my feeling, I like to separate it out, because my feeling, my sensations are really, I want those to be more aligned with my emotion, so that if I'm feeling, rage, I can have that sensation in my body of I'm feeling that discomfort of, what rage would bring or anger would bring. If I'm having, joyful and whatever, I can feel the sensation, and it's very different. It's very different in my body. If I'm having sadness, feels very different. That sensation is in my body differently. It hangs in my body differently, and it really has helped me by identifying that sensation in my body, that the pit of my stomach gets in a knot, or something, or I feel dizzy, my arms tingle, things like that show that I'm out of balance in my emotion. But it can kind of help me whenever I'm feeling a little bit unclear, unsure, like what exactly am I feeling here. Usually it's a frustration that I'm having trouble even identifying what I'm feeling, or it's that I'm feeling frustration and anger right off the top, and I'm frustrated that I don't know why. So, it's often that the extreme reaction that I would have, and that I do have sometimes, is related to sensations in my body, feelings, sensations in my body that are based in the emotion that I'm expressing or not expressing very well. Otherwise, I wouldn't have those weird sensations in my body. That's me personally. I don't know how everyone else is wired. I just know that my body starts feeling weird, then I really need to start looking at that before that turns into an outward expression of not really identifying what is the emotion that's going on there to match up with that uncomfortable feeling. What is it? Let's get to it and find out how we can resolve that. And how can we meet your emotional need there, Kate? What's going on here? So the emotion that I would have, maybe of anger, it's easier for me to understand and relate that right off the bat when I'm not angry. It's a great time to talk to myself about all those mundane topics about how does anger progress, what is the sequence of events of anger or sadness. With feelings such as anger, if I'm in the middle of just feeling that, I need to really be able to recognize that that is anger or rage or whatever, the out of balance feeling is as far as anger and mad goes. Have that understanding that's what it is, and then help back myself through that. What was the domino effect that caused that? Because anger in and of itself, there's a cause for it. And if we say, well, that person flipped me off, okay, what next? What's beyond that? And if we aren't really ready to admit that there's something beyond just being flipped off, there's more to it. There's always going to be more to it. There's can always be more depth, in questioning ourselves and getting to know ourselves. And it's rarely, as in I'd go out there and say, I don't really know a time for my own self anyway, that I have had a reaction of what somebody did that was a superficial something. Somebody I don't even know flipped me off in traffic and I lose my mind. That's rooted in something else in my inventory than that person. That person's got some issues about why they're so disrespectful, and full of it, that they're angry enough to, flip somebody off that they don't even know, that seems a little bit out there. However, if I get busy right off the jump with that person and start displacing that anger, I'm not really taking the opportunity to look at why would that cause me anger? Why would that cause me frustration? Why would that cause me an extreme reaction or even a mild reaction of being bothered by it? It's annoying sometimes that somebody's that ignorant, but should it take more than about 10 seconds to go whatever and not respond, not return the favor of, yeah, let me, just let you know how I feel about that. Stay out of that ego moment and really investigate, if it causes me to go beyond just a few seconds of, maybe they're having a bad day, whatever, just let it go. If it takes more than that, let's get into why would I be upset by that? What would be that? And identify that as the correct emotion that it really is. That how dare someone be disrespectful to me? If any of us knew how it was to grow up in a family or a world or a dynamic where we were never disrespected or harmed or humiliated, abandoned, made fun of, all of those things that really don't feel good. If any one of us on this planet ever, none of us bubble-eyes, none of us can claim that we have. So, I don't even go out there thinking that there's anybody that's really grown up like that, because we haven't. Even if no one intended to humiliate or harm us, we have our own issues of feeling embarrassed by something we've done, whether other people comment on it or not. So we can't, any of us, say that we've never felt embarrassment or humiliation or shame or guilt or those things, whether it was, externally piled on, the dog pile or not. We've come to that place of feeling that. And so, when we know that we have that in our past, we all do, we all do, especially love to talk to people I've never had, whatever, like, okay, we probably aren't going to get very far in conversation because that's a pretty high level of denial that we all have been put out there, naked and raw and exposed in some way or another, whether intentionally from the outside or not, or from our own, I just, my pants fell down in the middle of the mall, I mean, whatever it is, we've all had that. So anyhow, if we can think about someone that's flipped us off in traffic, why would that set me off? Why would I, get so upset about that? Well, it's going to trail back somewhere, and everybody's history is different, as to what the actual incident is. However, if we can just stop right at this is common. This is, I'm getting very angry. My ego just got smacked hard. And a lot of people talk about ego and the narcissist and all of this, and the ego really gets a bad rap because it's how we go with our ego. It's how we move forward with our ego, what we do with it, how we use it. It's not us. Our mind and our ego are not intrinsically enmeshed with one another unless they are. If we've got our mind on board with the narcissistic tendencies or the slam-on diagnosis or self-absorbed or whatever, then absolutely it's going to be a matrix of, really undoing that's going to take a minute. But we can stop at, everybody's had these moments of ego slaps. We've all had them where, we were challenged with that, how dare you, or whatever it is. That's the ego responding in a healthy way to, this person just publicly humiliated me, or at least tried. At least the two of us knew that I was trying to, gouge you. I was trying to smack you and put you in your place. And not one of us has the authority to do that, but we do take it, it's an unkind thing to do, and it's an unkind world, so get real Kate about what's really happening. It's not kind, and it's not, it seems very, to me, over the edge of, wow, I'm surprised at the level of disrespect people have for one another. But we have a high level of disrespect for ourselves that we'd even put ourselves in that ghetto position. But, whatever. I'm not here to judge other people. It's not like I've never, said a few things to somebody on the highway. It's just that, find a, better way to do that. Be classier than that, Kate. And again, not snubbing other people. I'm just saying at this point, it's like, okay, sorry that your world is challenged, that you need to find a micro moment to just flip me off. And I'm over here just driving, being my own thing, and I'm not challenging you on any level that your ego feels threatened to try to stab mine, and mine doesn't care. I'm just going to drive on and, not let that bother me. I'll reserve my, more involved responses for people I know or situations that are more close to home and might actually tap something that's not quite there, out there, so close for a stranger in the middle of nowhere, going nowhere I'm going to affect me in any way. So, put things right into the perspective where they belong. But if we can get a hold of the idea that, this person was trying to humiliate me, they were trying to shame me, they were trying to judge me, they were trying to put their statement of whatever it is on me, and effectively did, if it lands, it sticks, and I'm still thinking about it more than a minute later, other than if I'm trying to process, why does this bother me? Why am I mad? Why am I sad? Why do I feel, whatever? And I found through a lot of driving experiences, actually, which I don't like driving, it's not my favorite. Now I don't mind it so much, but I found it very difficult in the past because driving was very challenging with anxiety and stuff. I really had a lot of anxiety, and I would drive slow or I'd drive reckless. I mean, I was in, either one of them. If I was in that, just mood, I would make moves that were, janky and, sudden, and, putting on the blinker as you're, dramatically moving 3 lanes is, that's a little bit more courteous, but it's still kind of a terrible move. And people would be upset. And mostly I didn't drive like that, but I drove slow, or I, was just, constantly, on edge and feeling the tension and creating that tension, which kind of magnetizes, other people smell that little pheromone of, this is a good Hunger Games evolution. I can come over here and go and, flip this person off if they even remotely, are doing something wrong by my standards. And so when I look at it from the ego standpoint of, this is a battle of ego, this person's flipped me off because they can't identify their own emotion right off the top with, why would you care? Why would you care? What would be the necessity of schooling me up on my driving technique? Even if it was a jerk thing to do, people do jerk things all the time on the road, all the time. And I'm not going to get involved because I do understand also we're now, look around, anybody's armed and dangerous, and, going into single digit numbers of people, their age, of people that are able to cause a lot of damage, harm, and, inflict death upon one another, or someone that they have oppositional feelings to. It's not the time to get involved in unnecessary, unprovoked, launching into places that, and if we're gunned up and we're prepared to have that war, those are the people I definitely don't want to be anywhere near them, to even remotely. And I'm not saying, that we can't have our emotional response. It's that find out what it is, what it's rooted in, and really don't engage other people in their emotional responses, because something that I said to somebody the other day with a former paramedic, and he was a former paramedic also, that we don't have first reactors in EMS, we have first responders. So I like to think of it that, be a responder, figure out what that emotion is, get a hold of it before it goes off into some weird direction of a, panic and anxiety. And that's what would happen to me whenever I was driving and I was in that anxious state all the time. Somebody would flip me off or honk or do whatever, and it would just, make me more nervous. And then, I might keep my manners and my cool, and most of the time I did, until I got home. And then, I'm flying off the handle, and I'm letting it out in a safe place. And, safe place is not, not everybody in that safe place wants to be in your unsafe, emotion there, Kate. Well, I didn't really understand that's how that leaking out was happening. The actual emotion I was having was to, how dare you disrespect me in a way, and how dare you, school me up on how to drive. I'm doing the best that I can. It's the best of my capability, and, how dare you? And when I started realizing, go back and track that, get to the real emotion of that, get to the real emotion of that. The real emotion of that is the many times as a child and, even as an adult, that I was humiliated, made fun of, or, what's that kidding, I'm just kidding, toughen up. I'm perceived as being thin-skinned and can't take a joke and all this other stuff. And that's part of that lacking the understanding of emotion, is that if my feelings are hurt, or if I'm feeling abandoned by the people that love me the most, that think it's hilarious that, this is happening, or that, exploiting my downfall in some way is just really funny. That's me not really identifying that hurts. That hurts my feelings a lot. That makes me sad, and it makes me out here angry. Out here angry, but the core feeling is deep within me of sadness of, when we grow up with that kind of treatment, we're sad, we're abandoned, if you will, we're emotionally abandoned by the parents, the caretakers, the siblings, the extended family, the whomever it is that help to shape and define us. And unless we can really find a way to identify the actual feelings, get down to that, and then work with, how can I feel better about those things, that, I'm not still raging about my childhood when I'm 50 something. I'm not still raging about, something that happened to me even a month ago or 2 years ago, how can I get to where I'm feeling better about myself, that whatever that was, whatever way I was victimized, that I was helpless. And we are helpless sometimes to other people's victimization. It does happen, no matter how evolved we may be, no matter how what's that word empowered. That's embarrassing. No matter how empowered we might be, we are still subject to victimization sometimes, and we cannot control everything outside of us or external to us. We can monitor our own reaction to it. And remember, it's better to be a first responder than a first reactor. So the way we respond to it will keep us from reacting in some, off the cuff kind of way. And that's not generally training that's going to happen overnight, or that we're instantly going to change from being okay with people flipping us off. Like I said, I put that in the context that it is. I'm not going to sit at a dinner table where someone is just non-verbally flipping me off, or looking like they're just smelling something foul all the time. However, the people that are on a highway, how well do I know you? What's your consequence in my life, and how much am I willing to get engaged in letting that hurt my feelings? Do you know me somehow? And even if you did, the fact that you're willing to go ghetto like that tells me something about you, not me. And me engaging it back would just be me acting out of the same egoic spot that brought you here to do that to me. I mean, we're still going to continue this game, and it's not not the time anymore. There are people that are causing great harm to one another all over the planet, and people are armed and dangerous. They just really are. And I'm not into just letting people get away with sly stuff that's causing great damage to another person. If I saw someone that was actively causing harm to another person, I would probably intervene, depending on the situation. At a minimum, call for some help. However, I'm definitely not going to get involved in somebody's own self-crisis that you want to bless me out on the highway. That says a whole lot more about you than it does me. And it's not meant to be egoic to say, well, I let that go. If I, went home and told 12 people that there was somebody that flipped me off and I let it go, I'm letting you know, because, it's just a generic understanding. And so as long as the ego, if we can understand our emotion without the ego first, what is the actual emotion of what I'm having? It will involve the ego at some point as to how we deal with it, and what was it, the original assault to our senses and to our ego that took us to that spot, of why did I feel so badly back then that it's still tracking forward with my self-esteem, or my self-worth, or my value, or my self-image is somehow tapped by strangers not approving of me. Who didn't approve of me so much that I built a big giant lie about myself that I believe that a stranger on a highway has any power to affect my day, other than to annoy me for half a second and go, okay, whatever bad day you're having, it's a shame that you're taking it out on other people, and you're possibly going to meet your maker. And by doing that, gambling the odds with the general public at this time, it's not a good idea. It was never a good idea. I don't endorse it at all, especially now, though, that AK-47 is probably in the back seat for more than one person, in 1,000 that you would meet. So those are dangerous odds to play with. And more importantly, why would we want to ever, be zooming around on the planet and not really understand ourselves or our emotions or our ego and how that all works together enough that we feel the need to do things like that, to, reprimand others. I'm not your child, and you're not mine. To say, hey, toot, toot, we're at a light, it's been green for, 20 seconds now, could you move it on? That's a little different than trying to school somebody up on their driving technique. Or, when it gets closer to home and we start taking those, slams to our ego, the ego is not bad. The ego, when it's being abusive, though, when we're in our ego and we're standing there in that egoic spot of I'm better than you, that is bad. That's not good. That's not healthy. When our ego is sitting in its very neutral place of understanding that that's a personal thing, you're talking about me and my person, that's a very different understanding. And when we respond from that place rather than react from it. Remember, we have first responders, not first reactors. First responders get more done than a first reactor will. A first reactor will be on the scene going, oh my God, there's so much blood, there's so many dying people, I don't know what to do. Whereas a first responder already understands that, yeah, I can't get involved with the emotion of this. I've got to get involved in what can we do to fix this situation. If I were on a highway, get flipped off, and it ruins my whole, next 10 seconds, I might miss my exit. I might, get janky and start, flailing and carrying on like a freak in my car and become a danger and cause an accident. And it happens all the time. Road rage is a real thing. So, if I'm able to really back up in my own mind, I have to be able to do this before I get in my car, or at least be willing to assume that there might be a need to take a look at that behavior when I'm in my car and have those extreme reactions. First responder, first reactor, how do I want to do? Do I want to really react to someone and have them controlling my mood for even 5 minutes or 5 seconds? Do I want them to be controlling my mood at all? If it's going to be for any amount of time, I'd rather it be 5 seconds or limited amount of time, long enough to process, that was a jerk maneuver, and that was rude, and keep moving it. Otherwise I'm going to be engaging my ego, which will keep me into that reaction thing and not so much the respond thing. So it goes back to other videos talking about boundaries and putting some pause time in things. If we can take a second to just go, okay, that person has flipped me off. And, as long as the person isn't pursuing us and it's not, some kind of stalking episode or something, we're talking just generic, road indiscretions, then, it's a different ballgame than somebody that's actively working hard to, really intimidate and bully. That's a whole separate video. But if it's just, random stuff, it's really better. It doesn't have to tweak us in that place. And when it does, it always comes back to us somehow or another, damn it. I don't like to admit that, but it does. That why would I care? What would be the reason that I would invest, more than a few seconds to go, okay, whatever that is, dude, just keep it trucking and keep it moving. And I'm going to be a first responder on this and not even notice that there's a crisis going on, because that's yours. That's self-stated by the fact that you just, gave me the finger. We're not in third grade, and this isn't, the schoolyard, and, it's not junior high either. So keeping it in that position without getting lofty and saying, look at that jerk who just can't respond, then that'd be me going into, high school with it instead, maybe. So anyhow, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for your time. I do hope you're well. Remember, get within your skin. Because within your skin, you're divine. It's absolutely fine. Be well, whatever part of the day you're in, and take care of yourselves. And I'll see you again next time. Thank you. Bye, friends.